Hey, it's Matt, and today I'm here to tell you that you don't have to be perfect to change the world. How can I change the world when my life is so messed up? That is a question I get so often. So your life isn't perfect. Join the club. People questioning their ability to be a world changer just because their lives aren't right out of black and white sitcom from the 1950s. Like I said, that's a question that I get so often. It's people who question their ability to be a world changer just because their lives aren't right out of a black and white sitcom from the 1950s. Their lives aren't bright and shiny and sterile and wrapped up in a pretty little bow. In other words, their lives are real. Their problems are real. And yet somehow they can't change the world. I won't accept that. The notion that you have to be perfect to change the world is ridiculous. In fact, no world changer in history, save for one, was perfect. So how about 3 examples from history? The first example, Abraham Lincoln. If he were alive today, Abraham Lincoln would probably have spent the past 20 years watching soap operas in a Snuggie while popping antidepressants all day. He was prone to severe and debilitating bouts with depression that often led to suicidal thoughts. But he described his depression in a letter to a friend as a misfortune, not a fault. That is the attitude that allowed him to be a world changer. Or how about Moses, our second example? Moses had a temper so bad that he killed the man, something that you probably haven't done. I mean, he was a murderer. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that that beats most of what you've done. Murderer is not a tag you just drop. Oh, and did I mention that he had a speech impediment throughout his life? And yet, he led an entire race to freedom from slavery. Kind of like our first person, Abraham Lincoln. Or how about Winston Churchill? Example number 3. Churchill was most likely bipolar. He referred to his intense bouts with depression as his, quote, black dog. I read a biography of him recently and talked about just that. And he went on to become a central figure in the fight against the Nazis. By all accounts, he was a world changer. Every world changer throughout history, every single one of them has a dark side. Every one of them has a family secret. Every one of them suffered from something that could have kept them from changing the world. All while actually changing the world. Not one of them, none of them waited until their problem was solved or their dark days were behind them. They made their mark in the midst of their problems. They pursued their calling in the middle of their personal struggles. Someday, I'll be a world changer. I hear so many people say that. Someday when blank, then I'll be able to blank. Have you ever filled in those blanks? Have you ever said someday I'll? But what if the win? What if the someday win blank? What if that win never comes? What if Lincoln or Churchill had waited until their depression subsided? What if Moses had waited until he had taken more speech classes or everyone who knew about the murder had died? What if you wait until your life? What if you wait until your life is in order before you begin to answer your calling? That day that day most likely, in fact, that day will never come. Your life is never going to be in order like you think it needs to be to begin to answer your calling. All right, so that brings us to today's action item. Today's action item is to identify one mission or calling that you've been delaying and act on it today. But wait, didn't you say, Matt? Didn't you say that you should change yourself before you change the world? Am I refuting everything that I spoke about before in my post about change yourself, then change the world? No, I'm not refuting that. In fact, if you go to mattmcwilliams.com/perfect, you'll see a link at the bottom to that post, and I highly encourage you to check that out. Now, to be clear, the point of that, the point of change yourself, then change the world, was that there are times in life when you do need to focus on yourself first. If you struggle with an addiction, you need to get help first. If you are in a toxic relationship, you need to remove yourself first. You need to change yourself before you can change that person. If someone is dragging you down and keeping you from your purpose, you need to sever ties for a time. Then you can return to help him or her. Listen, you are a world changer. So I'm not refuting what I said in that post. It's different. I am saying that your life is never going to be in perfect order. And so start changing the world now, because you are a world changer right now. In the midst of your own struggles, in the depths of your own hell, in spite of every weakness or disadvantage. So do what you've been called to do. It starts right now. So go. Go now. Don't wait. I'd love to hear from you. Again, that URL is mattmcwilliams.com/perfect. What have you learned from in the past? Who have you learned from in the past in spite of their weaknesses? I'd love to hear some other examples in addition to Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, and Moses, the 3 examples I gave. And don't forget that action item. One last time, it's to identify one mission or calling that you've been delaying and act on it today. Act on it right now. Thanks for listening. Go make it a great day. And don't forget that you are a world changer. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at MattMcWilliams2. Don't forget the 2, or you'll get an egg. I want to talk to you about my book, The Power of Gratitude, Stories from the Front Line of the Thank You Revolution. Each of the stories in this book, from revolutionaries such as Mary, Pat, John, and Leo, who shared their stories with me, it's a type of story that will inspire you, instruct you, and invite you to join a revolution. In addition to the stories, there's tons of practical advice on how to get started and keep writing your thank you notes, which will change your life. As Catherine Leicester said, Matt's book is a must-read for leaders and team members alike. It's a renaissance in leadership that requires a return to basics. Go to mattmcwilliams.com. On the right side, you'll see a big sign that says, get your free book. Sign up there. It's free. You can't get this in stores. You can't get this on Amazon. The only way you can get it is by subscribing.